Well, hey everyone, this is Chris DiFurio with Keys to the Shop, and welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by La Marzocco, who has been making espresso machines by hand in Florence since 1927. Unmatched in beauty, innovation, dependability. La Marzocco espresso machines are at the heart of some of the world's best coffee bars because of those things. The innovation in machines like the KB90 espresso machine, which uses the straight-in locking portafilter technology to get better ergonomics. It also has scales in the drip tray for accuracy of your extractions, auto flush in the group heads for cleanliness and flow. And this machine, the KB90, is one of many options that will be perfect for your context, for your situation. To get the right machine for you, reach out to their sales folks over at info@lamarzocousa.com. When you email info@lamarzocousa.com, one of their salespeople will help you make this selection. Check out their website also, lamarzocousa.com. I think if you're going to be setting up shop, if you're expanding your cafe and you want dependability, quality, and innovation, then you really need to look into La Marzocco. Today's episode is also brought to you by Espressly. Espressly is creating custom branded mobile apps for coffee shops, for independent retailers who want to extend to their customers a convenience option that is more than just being a dot on a map of a larger app. You know, it's your app. It is your brand. It is your menu. It is real estate on the customer's phone, and they can interact with what they've become familiar with, you, the feel of your shop. It's really wonderful. And with Espressly, it's a no-risk model. There's no setup or development fees. You get a drive-through payment scanner, receipt and label printing capabilities. All of the data is stored in the app, and it integrates with some of the world's best payment processing systems. That includes Square. So there's a lot to love here. I think you should look into it. If you've been on the fence or just are on the hunt for a mobile app for your cafe, check Espressly out and sign up today over at espressly.co. That's espressly.co. Okay, everybody. Well, today I wanted to talk about your manual. I wanted to talk about this because it is common for me to have this conversation with people who are frustrated that their staff are not using a manual they've worked on that they think, containing some wisdom and guidance and things like that around vision, about recipes, policies, and that kind of thing. And, we've got lots of content here on the show. One in particular comes to mind, the episode called Your Barista Manual is Worthless. That was kind of a bombastic statement of a title to get people to listen, sure, but it's basically true in that if you're not going to back up what you put down in writing or in speech with actions, then you're basically just creating content that nobody is going to really consume in a way that is meaningful. And even if people do consume that content and it is meaningful, it will die off because the life of your cafe is going to push out the ideals that your manual represents. The ideals always give way to convenience, to survival, to getting through the day, the shift. And, there's always fires to put out. There's always, a surprise group of people that come in before the close. And in the midst of that kind of uncertainty, people gravitate towards the lowest common denominator. This is why we have systems. It's why we have checklists and all these other things. We check because we know that we will forget. Now, some of us are better at remembering than others, and that's great. But collectively, especially as you grow as a business, you need to rely on systems in order to achieve ideals. We've said before that old saying, I forget the Greek philosopher who first coined the term, but it's essentially paraphrased as, we don't rise to the level of our ideals, we fall to the level of our systems or our training. So this is more on the training side here, but it's decidedly focused on you as the owner, as the operator, maybe the person who authored policies, checklists, and things like that. One thing that I find very interesting is for all of the talk about people don't look at the manual. It's right there. They don't use the manual. I don't really see very many managers or owners using the manual. Well, we don't need to use the manual because we know we wrote it. Well, your baristas think they know it too, but you know different. And frankly, if you're not going to live by example, then you can't expect people to reflect something different than the example that you've given them. Fact is that nobody uses the manual. The owners don't use the manual, the managers don't use the manual, but they like to complain about people not using the manual. So the answer to this, I think, is that we need to integrate the manual into the way that we lead people. When we do that, when we keep it front and center, when we reference it in conversation, when we go to it in front of people as a reference, not as a tisk tisk, you should be looking at the manual. Here, let me show you how to open a book and look at pages. Nothing passive aggressive like that. But you are, again, living by example and showing people that use of a manual is expected. Even I do it. I am the manager and I still am using this as a tool. And I will therefore demonstrate to you by my example what I hope you will catch on to, which is the book is not just stored away collecting dust. These recipes are there to help me and you. So if you've got a manual, if you've got a document that you want people to really pay attention to, they've got to see you pay attention to it also. If you're an owner who has managers, hand this down to them and say, you are the first adopters of this tool. And as such, you demonstrate for other people the usefulness of it. Let them see you learning. I talked about this on the show before, how in the past there was somebody who wanted consulting and coaching, and they wanted to have extra training for them as the owners prior to another training session for their staff. And the reason why is because they didn't want their staff to see them learning alongside of them, because they figured their authority would be somewhat damaged by that. Now, we've talked about how you don't need to be the best barista to be a great leader. That's absolutely true. And as a manager who is introducing a new policy to the staff or a new SOP, you are the first learner. You're the chief learner. Why don't you kind of take that on as a identity? Part of your identity on top of being an agent of resourcing, an agent of clarity, is you're the chief learner and a demonstrator of what it's like to actually have learning at the center of what it means to be a professional. And learning utilizes resource. And that resource was worked on for a while. And hopefully it is something that's holistic, is taking into account all of the necessary details. And so why would we just take all of the work we've put into something and drop it into an environment and hope that people figure it out? The way that we communicate with our staff sometimes is like we're crop dusting. We just kind of fly over, drop it out of the plane and, hope it just coats everything and then it will integrate it. And we get frustrated when we come in and we see it's not happening. The intentionality is not there. And so this is the first step of intentionally integrating policies and manuals and tools is your leaders, yourself, need to adopt the practice of using them in front of people and making it a part of the daily life. So the question is, do you use your manual? And how can you do that more if you're not doing it now, so that people can have that good example and you can have the satisfaction of seeing all of that information get integrated much more thoroughly and people take ownership of it so that your business will thrive. So I hope that that's helpful. I hope that that makes sense. Let me know what you think. I'm really interested in your opinion. As always, you can reach out to me via email, chris@keystotheshop.com. DM me on Instagram, just at Keys to the Shop. If you're not following Keys to the Shop on Instagram, that would be a great move, I think. I'm going to be trying to do some YouTube content, I think pretty shortly. I'm trying to push myself to launch things that I've kind of been stewing on for a while. YouTube is probably one of those things, along with this coaching group. By the way, this is something that has just launched or will be launching in September, the inaugural Key Holder Coaching Group. It is a group of 5 coffee shop owners maybe yourself, that I host personally. So it'll be 6 of us total, 2 hours twice a month for 6 months. Each member gets a lot of great one on one time with the group to help solve particular challenges or give clarity to opportunities. This is an accountability group. It is about encouragement and helping each other grow and succeed in specialty coffee. So if you're interested in that, again, Chris at keystotheshop.com. I'll send you to the application to be considered for the inaugural group starting in September. Thank you very much, everyone. And as always, I'll see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break, from Keys to the Shop.